As I explained earlier, we are assessing the legal situation right now with this complaint by Ukraine with 3 member states, and we will assess what are the next steps. So at this stage, I cannot provide further information. Then on your second comment, I think it's important to underline that we have engaged very constructively and in the spirit of cooperation in the framework of the platform, and that's our intention. Croatia actually has been participating already in 2 of the meetings of the platform where we opened discussions to other members to see whether we could also enhance the capacity and implement alternative corridors to ensure that we could move the grain out of Ukraine. So I think that's the right forum to have this kind of discussion and to see whether we can find concrete solutions if there are problems, if the transit is not functioning effectively, etc.
Thank you. David, follow-up?
Yes, sorry, that was not my point. I can understand very well the fact that you are working on the platform on the specific issue. But if you look ahead, for example, the day when the Mercosur agreement will apply, if ever, and there is a huge increase of import from Mercosur of beef, I can see some governments saying, why don't we put some unilateral embargo, because we have a market situation that is difficult, as the 4 countries has done at the beginning, and then you intervene with an exception temporary measure for them, and so on. And I can imagine the Italians, when you liberalize the trade with Tunisia on olive oil, at a certain point saying, no, we will block olive oil from Tunisia because it's a problem for our olive oil. So it's not the specific issue of Ukraine, it's more a broad issue, allowing some member state to breach EU rule, at the end of the day, can incentivize others to do the same on other issues. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I think we are still too early in the process to reach such conclusions that there is a breach of EU law. We will see whether this is the case and we will act accordingly. I already have repeated several times that trade policy is of exclusive competence, so that's very important to take into consideration. When you talk about future potential impacts of other trade agreements, and here you mentioned Mercosur, let me remind you that in any trade agreement, the sensitivities of the agriculture sector are taken into consideration. So, for example, for products like beef, where there could be potentially, and here we are again talking about potential impacts, but not necessarily because the agreement has not been finalized, but there could be potentially an increase of imports. These products are subject to very carefully calibrated quotas, so we don't fully liberalize. In the case of Ukraine, coming back to what we are discussing today, we also have included under the autonomous tariff measures the suspension of all duties, expedited safeguards. So also to address the situation where there would be potentially a surge of imports. And then we have the preventive measures also that can be put in place very fast. So we have all the instruments and all the tools at our disposal to really address these kind of situations. And what is important is that we, as I have insisted many times, engage constructively with all the concerned parties and try to find solutions where we have an EU approach.
Thank you. Please go ahead.